Have you ever wondered what really happens in her mind when you stop texting? It's not what you think. It's not as simple as she doesn't care or she's over it. The truth is far more complicated, and surprisingly, it can work in your favor. Let me explain exactly why stepping back creates ripples in her thoughts, and why silence speaks louder than any message you could send. When you stop texting, the first thing she notices is the shift in the dynamic. Texting has become the lifeblood of modern relationships. Constant notifications, emojis, and the reassurance that you're still there. The absence of a text feels like pulling a thread out of a tightly woven fabric. At first, it might not seem significant, but over time, it unravels something bigger. She starts to wonder, what happened? Even if she doesn't consciously acknowledge it, your silence plants a seed of curiosity. The reason for this is simple. Humans crave patterns, and when that pattern breaks, our minds start searching for answers. That unanswered question begins to tug at her thoughts, and suddenly the absence of your text feels louder than anything you've ever sent. But here's the twist. This doesn't mean she'll immediately text you back or beg for your attention. Instead, she might retreat into her thoughts, trying to decode what your silence means. Is it intentional? Is it accidental? Either way, you've created space, and space is where curiosity and sometimes attraction grows. As the hours turn into days, something fascinating happens. She begins to replay your past conversations in her mind. That's the power of absence. It forces reflection. Suddenly, she's remembering the way you used to reply quickly, the inside jokes you shared, or even the moments when she might have taken your presence for granted. Her mind naturally starts filling in the blanks. Maybe she thinks you've lost interest, or perhaps you're busy focusing on something more important. Either way, the narrative shifts, and instead of you chasing her, she's chasing the meaning behind your silence. This is where psychology comes into play. People value what they think they're losing. But here's the catch. This only works if your silence comes from a place of self-respect, not manipulation. If you've stopped texting her because you're bitter, angry, or playing games, she'll pick up on that energy eventually. On the other hand, if your decision to step back is because you're genuinely focusing on yourself, your goals, your growth, your peace, that's when the dynamic shifts in your favor. Here's the thing most guys don't realize. Silence isn't just about creating mystery. It's about showing her, and yourself, that your world doesn't revolve around a single person. And believe me, women notice that. Independence is attractive. Knowing you have the discipline to step back and not overtext is rare, and rare always gets attention. By now, her curiosity starts turning into a mix of emotions. Depending on the nature of your relationship, she might feel a sense of loss, confusion, or even mild frustration. Why? Because the comfort of knowing you were always there has suddenly been taken away. That kind of shift stirs something deeper, a subconscious evaluation of what you mean to her. This is where the concept of value comes in. When you stop texting, you inadvertently challenge her perception of your availability. She begins to question whether she misjudged your role in her life. And here's the kicker. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about disrupting the unspoken assumption that you'll always be the one keeping the connection alive. Think of it this way. A favorite song becomes background noise if it's played on repeat. But when the song stops, you realize how much you enjoyed it. The same principle applies to relationships. Your silence creates a contrast, a moment for her to miss what she didn't realize she was valuing. At this stage, she might do one of two things. She might try to distract herself, brushing off the situation as unimportant, or she might start checking her phone more often, waiting for a text that doesn't come. Either way, you're no longer just a name in her inbox. You've become a question mark in her mind, and that's powerful. As more time passes, the absence of your texts creates a mirror effect. She starts thinking not just about you, but also about herself and how she has interacted with you. This is where emotions like regret or even guilt might creep in. If she realizes she didn't fully appreciate your efforts or dismissed your importance, those feelings can weigh heavily on her. This isn't just emotional. There's a psychological layer to it. People are naturally wired to avoid loss. It's why we sometimes feel more compelled to win back what we've let slip away than to appreciate what's in front of us. Your silence flips the script. It shifts the focus from what you're doing to what she might have done or not done. To create this distance, she might start overanalyzing. Did I say something wrong? Was I too distant? Did I push him away? And while this introspection is happening, she's also dealing with another powerful force, her ego. Even if she was the one who pulled away first, your decision to stop texting shifts the power dynamic. It forces her to face the idea that you're not waiting in the wings, and that realization can spark a desire to reconnect. At this point, she might test the waters. A quick, "Hey, how have you been?" or a random meme sent your way. These aren't just casual texts, they're feelers to gauge where you stand. But here's the key: how you respond, or if you respond, matters just as much as your initial silence. It's not about being cold or distant, it's about maintaining the balance you've created by focusing on yourself. As she processes your silence, she begins to see you in a new light. Whether consciously or subconsciously, she starts to recognize the qualities you bring to the table: the confidence, the independence, the ability to focus on your own path without constantly seeking her validation. This shift can be magnetic, but it's also fragile. Here's why. The value of your silence only holds if it reflects genuine self-growth. If she reaches out and sees you slipping back into old patterns, over-texting, over-explaining, or seeking reassurance, it erases the progress you've made. On the other hand, if she senses that you're thriving, pursuing your goals, and genuinely content, it makes her question her initial assumptions about you. This is where you have to stay grounded. The goal isn't to make her chase you, it's to reclaim your power and make choices that prioritize your well-being. If she comes back, great. If she doesn't, you've still won, because you've broken the cycle of dependence on her response. Remember this: when you stop texting, it's not just about what she thinks, it's about what you learn. You learn who truly values your presence. You learn how to handle the discomfort of detaching emotionally. And most importantly, you learn to respect yourself enough to let go of anyone who isn't willing to meet you halfway. So, the next time you find yourself wondering, what is she thinking when I stop texting? Know this: she's thinking about you more than you realize. But the real question is, what are you doing with that silence? Because that's where your power lies. And with that, your journey of self-respect and growth begins.